Welcome back, Mando.
Oh, ho, ho, ho. Greetings, Bucketheads. Mavar Tagar. Welcome to our 385th royalty revealing episode of MandoVision. I am your host, Narguy Tom. Thank you so much for checking out this small independent Star Wars podcast. We're so glad you're here. Reach out to us on those socials at Mando_Vision on X and Insta, MandoVision at Blue Sky, and of course you can email the show, MandoVisionTom@gmail.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share this show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. All right, Bucketheads, we are back. We are continuing our vintage Star Wars rewatch. And, we're to a new story arc, introducing new characters. A lot to sort of process in this episode, I'm not going to lie. I watched it, and for a show that is fairly simplistic and straightforward, there are an ungodly amount of characters that I have to keep track of in this new episode, where we're just bouncing around, going from thing to thing, and I'm just like, who is that person? Who's this person? And of course, they're not great with putting names on things. So yeah, had a wild time rewatching this one. This one, I think it's fair to say, maybe the most Saturday morning cartoony of the bunch so far. But we'll see if that's just this episode, or if that becomes something of a trend in the remainder of the series. But yeah, just sort of a casual observation. There's some weird stuff in this episode, and we're going to talk about all of it. But there is a little bit of Star Wars news to talk about first. Right after, I believe it was right after we dropped the episode last week, StarWars.com went out there and they released all the information for The Mandalorian and Grogu to be available digitally and the physical media release. So if you're excited about being able to stream it and all that good stuff, it will be available on Amazon Prime Video, Apple TV, and Fandango on July 21st, which is probably the day that you're listening to this episode. So you can go home and you probably got to pay the money. It's not rail specific, but I suspect if it's on Amazon and Apple, you're paying for the privilege of either buying a digital license to the film, or you'll do that really overpriced rental of the film and be able to watch it that way. If you want to wait until August 25th, you can get physical media. Get your hands on a physical copy of the Blu-ray or all 4K Ultra HD DVD, including the Beskar Collector's Edition, which comes with special packaging, steelbook, metal posters, and the film on 4K UHD, along with Blu-ray and digital. So, and a host of featurettes will also be available. I'll be honest with you, I'm probably going to pick up that Beskar Edition, though so far pre-orders have not opened up, at least not on the usual sites that I peruse. Some of the special features are crafting the Mandalorian and Grogu, biomes from snow to swamp, welcome to Shikari, to Jarek for real, and of course audio commentary from writer-director Jon Favreau. So things to look forward to in the near future. And like I said, today is the day if you want to go home and check it out. But again, you can wait till August, get that physical copy. I am a supporter of physical media. I tried to get away from it. I had a dalliance with trying to go all digital with things, and then I realized that I was only buying a license that could be revoked and ended anytime that person chose to. So, like, if Amazon decided to shut down half their digital library, I might lose everything. So, it felt like a scam. So, I went back to physical DVDs and things like that, and I'll be honest, I kind of hate it because I'm trying to get rid of things in my home. But now I'm, of course, buying physical media once again, something that I did in abundance in the 90s and 2000s, early 2000s. And here I am doing it yet again. Some other Mandalorian and Grogu news, and I don't know what to make of it. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. This may be a total non-story. I read this, and it felt like the person who wrote it was really just inferring a lot. And granted, they have a basis for saying what they said, but we don't have any facts. We don't have any confirmation from Disney. But according to several websites, there is now an end date listed by The Mandalorian. When you look it up as a series on like IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes, it now says ends 2023. Did Disney do that? Is that something going on? Is that something that is fact? We've speculated on the podcast that it seems that Disney wants to get away from the idea of Star Wars as television shows. It seems like they want to get back to Star Wars being a property that makes them millions and millions of dollars in a movie theater. And Mandalorian Grogu was something of a test, and that we also speculated that Mandalorian and Grogu was also something of a transitional movie for those characters into having their further adventures chronicled on the big screen only. Now, again, that was our speculation. That was, and I'm not the only one. I think other people have been very vocal in speculating that this is what Disney's plan is. But Disney doesn't tell us anything. They are, by nature, annoying. Because the lack of detail, the lack of information, the lack of clarity. I understand that it's an ever-shifting landscape, and that streaming has not been the sort of financial boon that many, many companies believed it to be. Disney in particular seems to be shifting away from original programming and original content on their streamer. And I think that's a shame. I think that is a tragedy, because I think Star Wars, in long form storytelling over the course of a 8 to 10 season episode of something, is spectacular. We saw the highest of highs with Andor. We've seen it with The Mandalorian. We've seen it with the other shows. Depending on how you felt about each of those shows, we've seen the benefits and enjoyment of Star Wars as long-form storytelling, instead of trying to cram everything into like a 2-hour flick. Which, again, if you were to pick nits with The Mandalorian Grogu, it's a lot crammed into a 2-hour flick. It's a 2-hour long episode of what we think of as a television series. But this may be the future of Star Wars. We'll get a real indicator of things, I think, when Starfighter comes out next year. But again, I'm just speculating. I'm just kind of throwing this out there. And until we hear like an official word that this is the plan, like, yeah, there's not going to be a season 4 of The Mandalorian. The adventures of Din Djarin and Grogu will continue in cinemas only. We'll have to wait and see. And maybe that's something that gets announced at Comic-Con this week. Comic-Con starts this week in San Diego, my hometown. You think I'd be paying more attention. Or, perhaps it's something that we don't get any clarity on until the next D23 or the next Star Wars Celebration. Who's to say? In the meantime, we get to stay in limbo. We get to stay in speculation purgatory, which is not a place we like to be. I like facts. I like knowing things. And guessing is no fun. At least I don't think it's very much fun. So, there you go. Otherwise, yeah, that's kind of it for the news on Star Wars. Let's go ahead. I think it's time. We might as well just get into it, because we have an episode of Droids to get into. And as I stated before, we are in a new story arc. We are in a new storyline. We have left all the previous characters we met in the past. And that just means it's time to introduce ourselves to a whole flock of new characters. So, this is the part where we give credit where credit is due. This is vintage Star Wars Droids, Season 1, Episode 5, The Lost Prince. Written once again by Peter Sauter and directed by Ken Stevenson. Our primary cast for this week's episode: Anthony Daniels is C-3PO, R2-D2 is himself, Donnie Burns, George Buza, Graham Campbell, Milan Chalov, Jamie Dick, Cree Summer, Don Franks, Dan Hennessy, Tabora Johnson, Michael LaFave, Gordon Mayston, Don McManus, John Stalker, and Chris Wiggins. A lot of people in this episode. The plot for this week's episode, it's a doozy, friends. During During a brief table waiting job, the droids run into bounty hunter Kleb Zelok. Then they are purchased by a miner, Jan Tosh, and meet a mysterious alien with a bounty on his head. And when they say purchased by a miner, they mean a person who mines things, not a small child, just for clarity's sake. And the description of Kleb Zelok as a bounty hunter is somewhat misleading as well. I'm not sure he's an actual bounty hunter. I think he's something of a authority figure on this planet of Tynes Horky, which is possibly the stupidest name I've seen in Star Wars. We'll talk more about it. We're gonna get into it. I got comments, I got thoughts, I got feelings about this episode because it's kind of a kooky one. So you know what that means? It's time. Strap on your buckets. Let's go.
Get out of here. We'll hold them off.
You're going to have to relocate the covert.
This is the way.
This is the way.
So we find the droids outside of a restaurant, cafe, bar-ish kind of place on the planet Tynes Horky, which is not clearly identified very well throughout the episode. I had to look it up online where that information seemed to exist. And it seems they were placed there by some kind of a droid employment agency, question mark. So R2 and 3PO are going to go in there, and they're going to start basically waiting tables for this four-armed chef character who seems to be a precursor to Dex Jetsetter from Episode 2 of Attack of the Clones. Doesn't necessarily look like the correct species, but the four arms, I don't know, maybe there was some loose inspiration there. It's hard to say for sure. We are introduced very quickly to Kleb Zelok, who, again, the plot description identifies as a bounty hunter, but he seems to be some sort of I don't know. I don't know if it is, in like the old westerns, like the Clint Eastwood ones, there's always like that sort of more well-off person who just seemed to have a lot of influence and control over the town. Zelok seems a bit like that. Yeah, he seems to have some influence, some sway on things and the way the town is sort of run. But bounty hunter, I'm not so sure about that. Not so sure. So I think that may be an inaccurate description. Eventually, our droids are going to get fired for their usual brand of shenanigans on the Saturday morning cartoon show, and they get thrown out by the four-armed character and told to never come back. They get into it with Kleb Zelok and his Beastman lackey named Yorpo, and so the droids don't know what to do next, and so they find themselves up for auction, and they are up for auction. Okay, hold on, before we get to the auction, I should say that Kleb Zelok is approached by a species that will later be revealed to be, where's my note? The Temuzans. I think that's how I think that would be the species name. That's the planet they live on. Because he's looking for someone. He hands Kleb a photo-ish kind of thing. And says he's looking for him. He's going to pay him 40 Kleshels. 40 Keshels. That's a lot of Keshels, man. So Kleb Zelok is now looking for this being. I don't know how he seems to get a bead on his whereabouts. And I'm not sure how this person ends up on this planet. However, these are questions that maybe will get answered down the road. I don't know for sure. We'll find out that this person hiring Kleb Zelok, his name is Solag. And he's basically looking for the prince of his world to bring him back to fight the tyranny of the vizier who has sort of taken over. In the meantime, spoilers. I'm getting ahead of myself on the plot, but listen, there's a lot going on in this episode, and I got to kind of keep it straight for all of us. So Zelok said, "Yeah, I'll take your 40,000 Keshels. Sure, right on, dude." Okay, now we go back to the auction. And all of a sudden we notice that C-3PO and R2 are up there, and they're next to a droid that doesn't look much like a droid. Spoilers, that's going to be our Lost Prince. Yorpo goes out there. He buys R2, 3PO, and this fake droid, which is clearly not a fake droid. And he's all like clumsy and weird and falls down a lot. And Yorpo's not real nice to that older broken droid. That's not really a droid. And this catches the attention of Jan Tosh, who had just bought a mining droid for him and his uncle's mining operation out there in the I don't know, in the wastes. What do they call it? In the mining territory? How about that? That's a little bit nicer. And Jan, like myself, is not a fan of being mean to droids. So he decides he's going to trade the really expensive mining droid for R2, 3PO, and this broken down not droid. It seems like a bad deal, but he doesn't like the way that Yorpo is abusing these three, and so a deal is struck. And Jan Tosh, R2-3PO, and the Nut Droid get onto his big giant tire bike that maybe was a precursor to what Grievous rides in Attack of the Clones. Nope, in Revenge of the Sith, excuse me. And they are going to leave and go about their business. But Kleb Zelek arrives and is like, hey, wait a second, that droid's not a droid, that's the guy we're looking for. How does he know? I have no idea. No idea. So there's a pursuit. Our heroes do escape. But we know that Kleb Zelek's not done. No, sir. We go back and we meet Uncle Gundy. Uncle Gundy is a miner, but he looks like our sort of classic 80s cartoon of a 49er, like of an old-timey prospector. So he, which you get mining, prospecting, I guess it's kind of in the same vein. They're all looking to strike it rich, right? But visually, miners I think of in like jumpsuits and helmets with lights and stuff like that. Prospectors I think of like this guy's visual. I don't know. Maybe I'm way off base. Gundy's real mad that he doesn't got the mining droid that he gave Jan Tosh the money for, because what's he going to do with an astromech protocol droid and whatever the heck this other thing is? Oh, and this other thing falls down, and then they realize it's not a droid at all. It's some kind of alien. Well, and they like to use the word creature as opposed to species. They think he's some kind of beast of some sort. And Gundy's not happy about that. And it's because it's another mouth to feed. And they got enough problems with the feeding their own mouths, let alone another one. And then he gets all irate and kicks R2, which I didn't care for. Not one bit. Not one iota. Anywho. So they start feeding the Lost Prince that they think of as just a simple mindless creature who can't talk, can't speak. And we'll find out later on that the evil vizier of Temuzan has sort of put some kind of spell on him, some kind of icky voodoo, if you will. And but he's strong, and so he gets to work. He gets fed. He starts getting his strength back, and he becomes an asset to Uncle Gundy in the mines, lifting heavy things and doing machinery bits and all kinds of good stuff. And then there's a cave-in, and Gundy is saved by this mysterious being. And then in what can only be described as, I think, the only bit of Star Wars where someone has actually spoken the language that we've heard about for almost 50 years, Bachi, Gundy speaks Bachi and says, Keziban, he who returns from death. And this name is what they give to this being who just saved Gundy, because they don't have a name for him yet, because he's not talking. He's not talking. Meanwhile, back at the cafe, Yorpo shows Zelek that they have discovered some Negron 14 in their own mine, which is something the Empire needs for its proton torpedo detonators. And now Kleb Zelek thinks they're going to be rich because they can mine this stuff and sell it to the Empire. All right, so after the cave-in, though, Jan decides to take Uncle Gundy to town for some medical checkup. There's some 2-1B droids in this little western-ish town. But Yorpo and Kleb are still looking for that being that they want that 40,000 Keshels for. And so they see him come back into town. They're like, hey, that's that being that I'm looking for. So Yorpo kidnaps Kez Ilban, and they are taken back to their mining base and thrown into a prison cell altogether. Eventually, because it's Jan goes to get him back. They start a bar fight. They get saved by a character named Jessica Meade, who doesn't show up for the rest of the episode. And then they still get captured anyways and taken back to Kleb's mining base. Because it's so volatile, Kleb's plan is to use Jan and the droids to transport the Nergon 14 for him, so that if it blows up, it only blows up some people he doesn't like that much anyways. They're taken down to a holding cell where when Jan wakes up, he finds that 3PO's already taken his leg off, and he's working on some kind of depowering some sort of generator so that the leg restraints that are on them can be deactivated so that they can't escape. This is also when Solag, the character who hired Kleb Zelok to find the Lost Prince, is thrown into the same holding cell. And this is where apparently they don't do a lot of frisking, but he sees the character that we have been calling Kez Iban and presents him with a scepter. And this scepter, Kez Iban grabs the scepter and in a very like He-Man-esque move, holds it out and recites a little speech. And we find out that this is Manjopa of Tamuzan, the heir to the Empire, the heir to their throne. And now it's time to escape so he can go back to his people. And we find out that the evil vizier put the spell on him, gave him amnesia. Don't know how he ended up disguised as a droid. That is a mystery in and of itself. But it's time to escape because R2 has detected rising gas levels in this mine. Also, R2 is going to reattach C-3PO's leg now. And remember how we talked about how in pretty much every episode there's been some sort of glitchy move that C-3PO has. Well, now with this reattached leg, it randomly kicks out. And of course, it kicks out at very convenient times throughout the rest of the remaining part of the episode, kicking bad guys, helping them escape, and they decide to go into the base of Kleb Zelek and confront him. The gas explodes. Kleb and Yorbo try to escape. The Negron 14 gets activated. They pursue. C-3PO does another karate kick to Kleb and disarms him and I think renders him unconscious. And they escape the mine, but this little lift that they have to go up, this little hover device that they need is being weighed down. It's being weighed down by all those Keshals. So the only way to get out of the mine is to dump those Keshals. And Kleb Zelek is not going to be stoked when he's woken up from this to find all his Keshals have been dropped down in that mine that exploded. So not real good on that one. So they escape the mine. They dump that cargo, and we get back. We're going to drop off. Supposedly, we're going to drop off Yorbo and Kleb Zelek to the proper authorities. I don't think that's going to stick, but we'll see. Gundy has found a Keshal vein in the meantime, so they're going to be doing okay financially. But Gundy's still mad at the amount of money he spent on R2 and 3PO, and so he decides to give R2 another kick, which I didn't care for one iota, but this time with his other foot. And so he kicks, and just like the first time, he kicks his metal droid body, and it hurts his foot. So he's hopping around. And then C-3PO's leg acts up again, and so he's hopping around. And we all laugh and have a joyous ending to the episode, basically. Manjopa is going to go back to Tamuzan, which I suspect is where we go with the next episode of the show, but I guess we'll wait and find out. It would feel weird to be sort of foreshadowing this evil vizier and all these things going on Tamuzan and then not go there, but I'm guessing. And that's the episode. Again, it's a weird, wild one. A lot of things that I don't have answers for, a lot of things I still have questions about, but it's a solid 6. It's a solid 6 for a Saturday morning cartoon about our favorite Astro and Protocol droid, R2 and C-3PO. So check it out and let me know what you think about this one, because it is kind of kooky. And I can't wait to see what happens next, because, yeah, I guess we could go a couple different directions. We could stay on this planet with these characters, with what's his name? Jan Tosh, and see what's going on with Kleb and Yorbo. Or maybe we go to Tamuzan. I guess we're going to find out. I'm keeping it a mystery. So check it out. All right, I think we're going to get out of here. That's all I got for you today. If any news breaks on the Star Wars front, we'll be here to talk about it. Go out there, be great Star Wars fans, kind, supportive, respectful, understanding, tolerant, patient, and embracing of droid life and protecting droid rights everywhere across this galaxy. We'll be back next week for another exciting episode of the MandoVision podcast. I am your host, Narguy Tom. Make sure you're following us on the socials, Mando_Vision on X and Insta, MandoVision at Blue Sky. And, of course, you can email me, MandoVisionTom@gmail.com, if you are so inclined. Sweet, sweet, sweet 5-star reviews. Insanely helpful for a show like us. We truly appreciate everyone who takes the time to do so. It means the fate of the galaxy is in good hands. And we'll be back next week, guys. Remember, this podcast, it can only end one way. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.